Hello everyone, it's Glenn here, back with you today in the Bay Ridge section of Brooklyn, New York. Today is Tuesday, August 19, 2025. How are you guys doing today? I've been taking time off making videos for a number of reasons. I've said so much over the course of years, and I've been feeling very shut down in a lot of ways in my life lately. But not shut down to the promises of God that He's given me for her. I've been speaking about how the last time we met and ever spoke together was August 19, 2010. So today is 15 years since the last time she and I ever spoke together. The circumstances died. God made sure they died between the both of us. The emails and all the letters I wrote in those earlier years were supposed to be written to her. She had to see it. God gave me an open window and an open door to send them because He wanted her to see what I would have to say in them. But then God was giving me the indication that it's time now to stop and to shut the door and stop communication. I didn't want to. The reason is that there's a never-ending reservoir and sea of desire and love and longing for her that has not quit to this very day. And the warning signs from God got louder and brighter, and I didn't listen. And then I wound up in Rikers Island because of it. And Rikers Island became a sanctuary, literally, for me, to leave her on the altar of God. I did everything. I knew what to do to keep her around in my life. It wasn't working in those years. And God allowed me to pull out what was going on in my spirit and soul because it was all bottled up within me. And I didn't want it to be bottled up. I took an opportunity to tell her all about it, tell her everything I feel. Tell her all your crazy dreams. I'm thinking about Billy Joel's song. Tell her about it. Tell her how you feel. Tell her all your crazy dreams. And in essence, he was saying, you'll be sorry one day that you didn't. So I took advantage of the situation. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to do. And I thought, by God moving me to write the letters and the emails, that was going to keep her in my life. I didn't realize that was going to be a season of planting seeds and watering seeds in her that eventually down the road would bear fruit. Now, I'm going to speak about the unchanging nature of God's purpose today. And, my situation is not your situation, right? Your situation is not my situation. I'm speaking to us who are Christians, who are trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ. However, it says, when one member of the body of Christ suffers, we all suffer. The same types of sufferings are being realized by our brothers and sisters all over the world, it says. Same type. Here is what it says in the book of Hebrews chapter 6, verses 17 to 18. Because God, and when I say God, I'm speaking about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, wanting to make the unchanging nature of His purpose. What wonderful words these are. Unchanging nature of His purpose very clear. He wants to make His purpose very clear to us, friends, to the heirs of what was promised. He confirmed it with an oath. God did this so that we who have fled to take hold of the hope set before us may be greatly encouraged. So, Lord, I thank you for this message that you're going to help me speak forth today like you've done so often in the past. Help me, help those that have felt discouraged along life's path because promises are taking so long to be fulfilled in our lives, Lord. And it is through faith. The faith that you gave us to believe these things that you've shown us. And patience, which we don't have in ourselves, but the love of God, the Lord leads us into the love of God, and the Lord directs our hearts. Lord, Father, you direct our hearts into your love, into the steadfast patience of Jesus Christ. And that's how we're able to endure. That's how the only reason I've been able to endure all these years of waiting. 15 years, Lord, since she and I last spoke together. I knew that was an open door that day. And it would be wonderful if you brought it back today on the anniversary at the last time we met. That would be wonderfully significant. But whether it happens today or it doesn't, it's going to happen in the day it's supposed to happen. Because all days are in your book, since before we were ever born. And we can thank you, Lord, that you who began the good work in this are going to complete it right up into the day of Christ, because it is you, Father, Son, Spirit, at work in us, but to do your will and your pleasure. And I thank you for what you're going to share today for us, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. So be it. The unchanging nature of his purpose. He makes this unchanging nature for what he wants to do for you and I very clear to us. Now, he made it very clear to me in those earlier years. The book of Hebrews says, remember the days when you were formerly enlightened. In my case, enlightened about her. And he confirmed it here, it says, with an oath. He confirmed it with promises. And whatever he's promised, excuse me, you and I, he's able to perform. That doesn't mean we're not going to feel things, friends, like depression. That's what I felt lately. So down over the fact that she's still not back yet, but alive in my heart. The paradox, the seeming contradiction, the feeling down that she's not back yet. But the hope is still alive within me because God placed the hope within me. So, how many thousands of days is it since the last time we spoke? Right, I could get my calculator out. 365 days times 15 years, and you add 3 days for leap years. This is a very special day for me. It was so special for me because it was a day God opened for us to speak. He moved upon her to finally come looking for me to, not to reconcile that day, but to get a sense of peace. She wanted me to leave her alone. It had gotten to that point. And I was as much frustrated about her not being with me because the promise was alive in me that she couldn't see in me. Now, she knew I believed it, but she couldn't see it for herself, and she was just as frustrated about me as we were both speaking to each other. My frustrations over her were speaking, as we were speaking that day. Her hurts and wounds from her past by other men, I could see it in her, was still there, and she wasn't able to give her love to me because she wasn't healed sufficiently in those days to be ready to be with me. But I did ask her, after I told her, I said, you've got feelings for me. I said it out of my frustration. That I wanted her to get in touch with those feelings. As I was saying it, that she could maybe change her mind that day. But even though she admitted that she did, she told me she did, after I said that to her. She just couldn't go with it. She just wasn't ready to be with me or anybody. She told me that day. Glenn, it's just not you, it's all guys. I want to be alone. I need to be alone with Jesus. Previous to that, she sent me some angry emails, upset emails, because I was touching a nerve. I had actually opened up all the Pandora's box within her, of all that I was, and I believe I was supposed to do it. To show her I understood and I cared and I wanted to be there for her. I understood her past. There was a time she said to me, "You understand me so well." This was at the beginning of 2008. She realized I did. But then she did a flip-flop, 180-degree opposite. She was angry in the email that she sent me in 2010, just before we met. She says, "You think you have me all figured out." And all the hurts from her were being exposed. Her wounds were coming up. She realized I knew it, and it was bothering her that I did, and that I'd said it to her. But I believe God wanted me to tell her these things, that there was somebody in this world who cared enough to tell her that he understood and he cared. And he wanted to be the one that would help heal those wounds if she would just be with him, meaning me, but that wasn't God's plan for me to be with her. It was God's plan for me, I believe, to write the letters in the season that he allowed. He gave me an open window and season to send emails and write letters. But then he started to close the door and told me, okay, now it's time for you to stop. I'll get to that in a minute. I met her when I was working as a membership coordinator and a personal fitness trainer at what was then called Dolphin Fitness Club here in Bay Ridge in 2002. Of course, how did we know we were going to meet in the course of life? I didn't even know she existed. She didn't even know I existed. But boy, we found out soon enough. The gym is now still there, but it's called Harbor Go. It was bought out by another gym, it was taken over to rent out, not bought out, but it was taken over to rent out in the facility that's still there, that I still go to as well. I can use different clubs of Harbor Fitness here in Brooklyn. I still exercise, I still work out, and that's good. God has me where he has me, and I take care of myself the best way I know how, but there's been a lot of pain and sorrow and sadness and suffering and depression, and sometimes anger, and missing her. Hope deferred gets the heart sick for many, many years, friends. I've been dealing with this, and it's been my cross. Do you know this is my God-ordained cross? Unless you pick up your cross every day and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. Now, what is our cross? Jesus picked up his cross. We don't have to pick up his cross. He picked up his own. We have to pick up our cross. That's what he said. Unless you pick up your cross. And our cross is the designed circumstantial circumstances that God has chosen for us. Whatever God is bringing us through, that he's shown us he's bringing us through, and the circumstances that he's designed around it, that's our cross. Jesus had his circumstances that were his cross. And of course, he had to go to the cross. And he despised the shame of it. It says so. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, however, but he despised the shame of it. Now, in a real way, you and I are going to experience the same type of suffering. Not being nailed to a cross, but in a sense, we're nailed. Have you ever felt nailed to your own circumstances, nailed to your cross that God has given you? I have. I'm nailed to this cross without her that I've had to endure, and there's been pain and suffering. It's a really good way to put it if you think about it. And we're not going to be unnailed until the Lord removes the nails and resurrects us, because we're not physically dead, she and I, but our relationship has been physically dead. And we've been both nailed to it until the time arrives that we're supposed to be back together. And only God can bring us back together. Only God can arrange this. Only God can work sufficiently in her and I, particularly in her, because she certainly needed to be healed, sufficient, not only healed by God from her past sufferings, but to have God still work in her after all of these years being apart from her, that I'm still in her heart and soul and mind, and God moves upon her to come looking for me to reconcile, just as I've been saying he's going to do. I've been saying it all these days, weeks, months, and years, as God began to show me his designed path for the both of us, his designed purpose. He made the unchanging nature of his purpose very clear to me. And he confirmed it with signs following. I've spoken about this. 3 separate years, being in 2 separate places, twice in front of this house, speaking to 3 separate people, 3 separate days. As I'm saying to each person what I believe, and I decided to open my mouth and speak about what I believe God had shown me about her. I had fallen in love with some woman in the neighborhood, and I'm saying I believe one day she's going to be back with me or be with me, because I believe God showed me she's the one for my life. I was so excited about it. I still am. looking forward to the fulfillment of the promise. But do you know, as I was saying it, all 3 days, all 3 years in front of those 3 people, she just happened, quote unquote, to pass by where I was all 3 times. I couldn't have orchestrated that. I couldn't have made that happen. I didn't expect it to happen. Of course, the 3 people I was speaking to didn't expect it to happen, but all of us took note of it. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. God confirmed it. What he showed me about her with these promises, these were divinely orchestrated events that proved to me what I was sensing in my soul and spirit was true in regards to her, that God was in this. And he brought her to me those 3 times. I didn't have to go looking for her. I wasn't chasing her. I wasn't doing anything except talking about her to other people and what I believe God had shown me. And at that instant, as I'm saying, I believe God has shown me she's the one. She passes by all 3 times, all 3 years, all 3 days in front of those 3 people, who, if you would have asked them if that actually happened, they would tell you the truth that, yeah, this actually happened. I was there. We were there. And they were amazed. All 3 people were amazed. The first encounter, my friend Bill at the real estate office. I'm speaking to him, which he no longer has the real estate office. It was on 84th Street off of 5th Avenue. And she had lived in the neighborhood. Now, of course, she could have been anywhere that day, doing anything, walking her dog anywhere. But do you know, as I'm saying to my friend Bill these things about her, that I believe God is going to bring her to my life one day, she's just happened to pass by. And there's a big open window, glass window. She's walking her dog. And if she didn't look in, why would she? She didn't know what was going on. I was there talking about her. And I said, Bill, that's her. He looked at me. He says, the first thing out of his mouth, Glenn, he said, is God trying to tell us something? I said, yeah. I said, wow, look at that. I knew that was God that day, and so did he. And he wasn't really a believer. There I was. But he was a friend of mine. I had known him because I was a personal fitness trainer for him at Dolphin Fitness Club, and he had actually purchased a couple of air purifiers from me through my business. So God made sure I was there that day. And God knew I was going to open my mouth that day about her and what I believe God showed me about her. So God somehow, some way, orchestrated her steps to come by where I was. As I'm speaking about her, I can still see it. I can see every day, those 3 days, I can see it like it was yesterday. Those images are burned permanently in my spirit, soul, and mind. Another time happened, my friend Rich, who I knew from my gym days, a friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, drove me home. He must have gone for coffee or something. And we're parked in front of the house here. And as I'm saying to him, the same thing I said to my friend Bill. I said, Rich, I really believe this woman is going to be in my life one day. I believe God showed me she's going to be in my life. I look out the car window. I look up the block. She's coming down the same side of the block where I live, walking with her sister. And I said to my friend Rich, I said, Rich, that's her. And she passed by. She couldn't have seen in because the windows are tinted. She said, and so my friend Rich says to me, did she see you? I said, no, Rich, the windows are tinted. But I said, that's her. He said, wow. I said, yeah. I said, I told you. I said, this is how it's been in my life. I talk about her. It happened someplace else, and now it's happening with you. And ever since then, I reminded him on occasion of that. He says, yeah, I remember that. And the last time was in 2015. 5 years after the last time she and I ever spoke, 15 years ago today. So it was 10 years ago in the summer, after the 2 docket numbers against me were conditionally dismissed and a 2-year order of protection levied against me. She was told, obviously, by her lawyers that what was going on with me and that I was actually free. And she decided to come down my block here where I live multiple times that year. Now, she lives 6 blocks away. If she really wanted to not see me at all, with the order of protection and all, she would never come. But she came multiple times. And the first time I saw her, I was sitting on the stoop, and she came down the block, and she stops across the street to light her cigarette. She stopped right across the street from where I was. And then she kept walking. And I said, Lord, that was you. You did this for me. I said, I'm going to ask you to make sure I'm outside as often as I need to be outside to see when she comes down the block. One time I went outside and I looked down the block for I lived the same side of the block. She had already passed. She had passed my house. She wasn't even walking her dog. She didn't turn around. She just kept walking. I said, Lord, that was you. But the time I'm referring to was when I was speaking to my landlady, who happens to know her because she used to come into the same grocery store that the family used to own some years ago. And as I'm speaking to my landlady, and this family that owns this house is like my second family. They've been so good to me over the years. They don't see me as somebody who rents. I'm like part of the family. That's what they keep telling me. And this has been God's blessing to have this apartment. Thank you, Lord, for it. And the provision to keep it with financial means to keep it going and to pay the rent and all the bills you've ever given me to pay with the means you've supplied and chose to give me. But friends, as I'm speaking to my landlady, now I want you to consider this. I was in Rikers Island for 84 days. I'll explain why in a minute. And I had to go through close to 40 court appearances. And yet God knew what he had placed in my spirit. I knew what he had placed in my spirit. God knew what she was going to do before she ever did it. God knew I was not going to be able to let go and listen to her, to leave her alone, and God's warnings. I'm going to get to that in a minute, which I haven't even begun to spoken about yet. I'm still speaking about the last time we spoke in 2010. And of course today, being 15 years, I'm reminded of the 3 signs that God gave me. So as I'm speaking to my landlady about her, I said, her name is Hayat. Hayat, I'm sorry what I did. Thank you for keeping this apartment. I should have listened to her to stay away, and God's warning to leave her alone. But I'm still trusting God to bring this back together. As I'm saying that, I'm still trusting God to bring this back together. I look across the street. Here she comes, walking the dog. I said, Hayat, there she is. And she saw her. And she kept walking past across the street. And my landlady was shocked. I was amazed that God did it again the 3rd time. But God did that, friends, after all that happened between the 2 of us. God gave me an open door and window of opportunity to write all the emails I wanted and letters. But then he started to warn me to stop. And I didn't listen. And it took some time for what happened to me to happen. The warning signs of God got brighter and brighter and brighter. You're going to make it worse. Get your hands off the situations. Leave her in my hands. I didn't listen. And because I didn't listen, she did what she thought she needed to do. The reason why God was warning me is because he knew she was getting to the point, it was starting to really get to her. It was getting to be too much and overwhelming for her. That God was saying also, by saying that to me, she doesn't need to hear from you anymore of what you think about her and all the wonderful things you said to her about her. You planted enough seeds and they're watered. Now leave her with me. Let me work on her, because you can't bring her back to yourself. And those letters and emails, as you've noticed, Glenn, haven't brought her back to you yet. but I didn't listen. She got an order of protection against me, and I wound up in Rikers Island in 2013. So it was my fault. But even though she had asked me to leave her alone, God allowed me to write the letters because I believe he wanted her to see what I had to say and how I still viewed her after the way she had shut down to me, and even after her angry emails. She was angry with the men who did this to her, and angry with me, of course, because I wasn't leaving her alone. And she was really mad because I brought up all the wounds within her. I wanted her to face them. Because she and I were friends, and I was speaking to her as a friend, and also I'm thinking of her as my future wife. I wanted her to be healed. I was upset that she wasn't with me, and I had all this bottled up love and desire in me for her that I wasn't able to express. So I kept writing letters. So what was God's perfect will for the both of us, that became his permissive will. He allowed me to write the letters to a point where he told me finally to stop. And when I didn't listen, I wound up in Rikers Island. And then I had to go through all that I went through with the pain, additional pain and suffering, not only with her not in my life, but the pain and suffering I caused myself. And of course, everybody in Rikers knows why everybody's there. Everybody's sharing why they're there, what happened. I was a pretrial detainee stuck in Rikers for 84 days because I couldn't afford the bail. I couldn't post the bail. I was learning all about it. I was learning all about the court systems, all about how it operates in Rikers Island. Boy, did I find that out. I had to really learn to trust the Lord there. It was a very difficult time. It was no picnic in Sunset Park, and it was not any trip to Hawaii. Anyway, I was trusting the Lord to get me through it. All I can tell you is he told me, or should I say he impressed upon me this: forget what's behind, look to the future. I'm going to get you out of here. He didn't reprimand me. He didn't say, see, I told you to leave her alone, look what you did. No, he didn't. He could have. He could have rebuked me. Those whom I love, he rebukes. I've been rebuked before in the past by God, but if there was ever a time that God could have rebuked me, it would have been then. But he didn't. You know why? He knew I was in love with her. And he knew that he had put this desire in my heart for her. And he knew I wasn't going to be able to let go. And he knew that she wasn't, even though she was going to fall in love with me to the degree she did and the feeling she had for me, he knew, the Lord, that she wasn't going to be able to go with it. She was going to stuff it down because she was going to be afraid of it. She wasn't going to trust it, and she wasn't going to trust herself. Because that she wasn't ready to give herself to me or anybody because of all that she's been through. And the way she had related to that one man or the other man who did her dirt, particularly this one guy, that's all she knew how to deal with men after that. This wall of protection was up. And not only did she have a wall of protection up, she had orders of protection on 4 men. 2 at the same time, me and somebody else. But I'm sure, particularly the first guy that was probably in San Diego that did this to her. And of course, the Lord knew that she was going to carry these hurts and wounds. When the family moved from California to Long Island and then here into New York City, when the family stayed in Long Island, the sisters, her and her sister, moved into Brooklyn. And it was supposed to be that way. Her steps were directed to where I lived. God made sure we would meet, friends, in those earlier years. God wanted, and God knew she was wounded and hurt, but he wanted us to meet and to become friends, and we did. She came up to club with her sister one day. I took one look at her. I said, wow, and I've been saying wow ever since, and she's had a grab of my heart ever since. And somehow in the course of time, I started to talk to her, maybe to her sister, about maybe joining the club, which they never. I think her sister joined, if I'm not mistaken, for a little while. I don't quite remember. I think she did. It's been so long ago. It's 23 years, you know. But I would speak to her sister, the one I was falling in love with, and one day her sister says to me, not the sister that I think was a member, but the sister I was falling in love with. She says I was taking a break from work, and she just happened to be in the club. She says, "Come on, walk me to the bank." Oh, okay. So I walked her to the bank across the street where she used to live on 86th Street. And it was then I said to myself, my God, listen to this beautiful, soft voice, beautiful. I can see she was a beautiful person, a beautiful soul. She looked happy, and a beautiful figure, beautiful body. I said, I think I want her as my girlfriend. And that's when I began to fall for her, back in those earlier years. And that's how we met. And she gave me her email address. She gave me her 3 phone numbers, where she lived, at work, and her cell phone. And she kept saying to me, call me, call me, call me. I'm looking for friends. Call me, call me, call me. And I thought she was more interested in me just than being a friend. I said, I'm going to ask her out. You know how it goes. You go on dates and all. Well, ever since then, I would call her, and she would just never pull the trigger and go on a date with me. We never once had a cup of coffee. We never went anywhere like to sit down and have a meal or a date. To this day. And yet, all of these years, there's a reason why I have still been believing God for her. There's something in me that you can't see. None of you can see it. There's something that's been deposited in me that none of you can see. It's the deposit of the Holy Spirit. And then the deposit of the Holy Spirit in regards to her. That guarantees my inheritance not only for eternal life, but guarantees my inheritance for her to be in my life in the right season. None of you can see it, but I can. I can. I've seen it within me, and that's what's been carrying me all these years, friends. This seed of God, this imagery, this deposit within me, whatever you want to call it, is there. And I've been using the words that God has given me the ability to speak over the course of years to describe what's going on inside of my spirit and soul. You know how many people have asked me, particularly in Rikers, what's going on with you in regards to her? Particularly when I was saying to them in Rikers, because we lived in a housing area with 60 men in total, not 16, 60. 60 men in total, so as we're all telling each other why we're there. Oh, I fell in love with a woman. God warned me to stop writing letters. I wrote about 240 to 260 letters. I said, are you crazy? Yeah, that's why I'm here. I said, but I'm still believing God that he's going to bring us together one day. It's my fault that I'm here. They looked at me. They said, are you crazy? Are you nuts? Don't you see where she's put you? She had no regard for you. She didn't care about you. And she did. She did. But she did care. But she used the court system to keep me out, to stop doing what I was doing. That's all she knew what to do. Because the feelings she had for me were still deeply buried in her, friends. They were still there. I knew that they were there. The feelings she said she had for me. I knew they weren't going to leave her. That's why I kept writing the letters and going beyond. Now, don't you see where she's put you? How do you know if you got out of here, if you went after her again, she wouldn't do it again? So first of all, I said, I'm not going to go after her anymore. And I said, I'm trusting God to bring us back together. Well, how do you know if you're back together? And even if she reconciles with you, how do you know if down the road she wouldn't do it again? It says, because this time, and I had the answers. Because God makes the unchanging nature of his purpose very clear, friends, to those who he's called to know his purpose. So I was speaking from the purpose I knew was in me. I said, because when she comes looking for me, it's going to come looking for me to reconcile. And when she does this, it's going to be the first time ever in the relationship we had that she ever contacted me once. She never contacted me ever. I was always the one contacting her. Always. She never once contacted me by phone. She responded by email in 2007, but I initiated first the contact. And so I'll speak about that too in a minute as well. I said, when she comes looking for me, and she comes, it'll be because God brought her back, and God worked in her sufficient to be healed from her past. And all that happened between the two of us, and this time she's going to be ready for it, and she's not going to leave. God wouldn't bring her back to me if she was going to do it again. I said, I'm going to leave her alone this time, though. They said, well, if you can leave her alone, then they softened a bit their stance against me. They thought that was nuts and crazy. They said, well, if you can do that, then see what God may do in the future. And I said, yeah, that's what I'm trusting God for. So after 84 days, God got me out. How he got me out was in another amazing story. I couldn't afford the bail. And my father had passed away a year prior on September 1, 2012. And I had spoken to my dad about her some years before he passed away, several years before he passed away. The first time was in, I believe, 2008 or 9. Probably 2009, he was in the hospital, Lutheran Medical Center here in Sunset Park. And I was asked by my mother if I would take the cab and go pick him up. I said, sure. So I picked him up, and the cab was bringing us home. And I'm speaking to my father about her. I said, Dad, I've fallen in love with somebody, and I believe God has shown me that she's going to be in my life one day. But I said, she called the police on me. And the first thing out of his mouth he said to me was, Glenn, she's hurt. He knew right away. He knew right away, Glenn, she's hurt. Because he knew me. You know, he knew me. I'm not going to do anything to anybody to purposely hurt them. I was never arrested. He knew that about me in the past. I said, this is the first time anybody ever called the police on me. Glenn, she's hurt. I said, Dad, what do I do about this? This is his words of wisdom. First he said, be careful. If you call the police, be careful. But then he said this to me. He said, Glenn, if you believe that you're going to be together and you really love her or like her, whatever he said to me, he said, just be consistent over time. Just be consistent with her. Consistent. She will come to see that for herself over time. Wow, what words of wisdom. 2009. 16 years ago, is that right? Yeah, 16 years ago. I never forgot that. So I was sharing what I believed, what God had shown me in those earlier days with my mother, who was then alive. My father was alive. I'd be over the house on occasion. I was finally, in the latter years, we had somewhat of a better relationship with my mother. I was the black sheep of the family for many, many years because of my faith in Jesus, I believe. I've spoken about that, but for whatever reason that I would know about. I was over the house, and I'm speaking to my family. They thought I was crazy. It's just not going to happen. There's something wrong with you. It's unfortunate my father and mother are not going to be alive to see, because it was going to be many years later, and they were going to be gone. They were going to be passed on. My mother passed away in 2020 due to COVID complications in a convalescent center, and my father passed away, as I mentioned, 2012. But it was my father who said to me, be consistent over time. And you know something? I was going to be consistent anyway. But he was just reiterating what he would be. And I have his genes in me of consistency. You know, like father, like son. I share a lot of my father's nature in that aspect. So it was in Rikers. I was not able to get bail. And then my friend, who was taking care of all of my affairs behind the scenes while I was in Rikers, I asked him if he would call up my former childhood friend, who I drove to Philadelphia in his car and drove it back in 1980, if he would explain the situation to him, what happened to me, and see if he'll post the bond for me. And as it turned out, after a long conversation, my friend was convinced that, okay, I will post the bail for Glenn. But how it happened is that I was praying. I said, Lord, I'm going to ask you to use my friend, his name is George, to speak to him and to touch my friend's heart to give me the bail. And I'm going to ask you to get me out around the time, get me out of Rikers around the time of the anniversary of my father's death, 1 year anniversary. So I asked specifically what I was asking for. Do you know what happened exactly that way? I was released on, August 28th or 29th. Just a few days before the 1st of September. And I saw that it was an answer to prayer. God honored me for the sake, and honored my father in the memory of my father. He did it for my father, for the memory of my father, and he did it for me. And I got out. But I wasn't freed from the court situation yet, but I certainly was freed from Rikers. And I didn't know which way it was going to go, but I was trusting God to get me through it. And the amazing thing was, without getting into the details of it, because I was really stuck in a bad way in Rikers and in the unified court system. I was in a mess. God delivered me from the mess. And I'm here to tell you about it. With no criminal record. I was never indicted. I never appeared before a grand jury. And I never went to trial because I agreed to a plea bargain, agreeing in the second arrest as a violation of the order of protection, which I didn't do. And to this day, God knows I didn't do it. My friend knows I didn't do it because he was here in the apartment. He was on the computer, and there was a computer log using my computer. Someone's using the computer the very time she said I was in front of her house violating the order of protection. So I had that in case I needed it. And I said, God, I don't want to get her in trouble. But she did lie against me, Lord. But that's all she could have done. In those earlier years, she wasn't ready to be with me. I think what happened was she was afraid that I might come after her again. She lied and said I violated the order of protection. She wanted to make sure I would be in jail because she wanted me out of her life to stop contacting her. That did not mean, friends, she did not have feelings for me. There was stuff down, but she was so afraid of the situation with me. And what I did must have reminded her of something else some other man did to her, which is the case. She did what she thought she had to do to keep me away. And God used it for her sake and mine. So she could finally get to a place where she could be by herself without me or anybody else to heal. To heal. Now, I personally do not believe she's been with anybody else all these years. That's me. That's what I believe. I don't know if she's been on any dates or anything. She might have. She might not have. But I really don't believe that she has been with anybody. And if she had been, it wasn't going to work. Because, excuse me, her destiny is tied to me. We're tethered. We're spiritually connected. She has that spiritual connection to me. She knows it. She has sensed it and felt it for years. I know she has felt it. I have felt her presence. I have felt spiritually connected to her for years. You ever had that sense you feel somebody's presence? Oh, I felt it with her for years, and I know she's felt it with me. And I know she hasn't been able to understand it for many, many years, but I knew she was going to come to understand it over time. And all the mess that happened between the two of us, God knows how to take the mess, take the broken pieces of the relationship we had that was dead, and bring it back to life. And the reason why I wound up in Rikers is that God began to deal with me to stop writing the letters and the emails, and I didn't listen, as I said. That's the reason. He allowed me to write them for a season in the open door so she could see all I had to say in an in-depth way, because I was very communicative. I said, I'm a communicative guy. You need a communicative guy. I'm not going to string you along. When you decide to come back with me, this is who you're getting. I'll always be there for you. It's only going to be you and I. You need a faithful man in your life. You need someone who's not going to hurt you, is not going to abandon you, but is going to take care of you rightly and be there for you every single day and be willing to build the relationship with you. Now, God knew the type of woman I had in my hands here. A wounded woman. A good woman, but wounded. And hurt. And God knew that the personality I have, Mr. Go-Getter, I'm a go-getter type, the make things happen guy, try to make things happen. He knew I wasn't going to be able to stop listening, even though he warned me. He knew I was going to listen to her eventually, to please leave her alone, in her last request to me in 2010, 15 years ago today. He knew I wasn't going to be able to do it. And the only way I was going to stop is him opening the door for me to be put in Rikers Island. Okay? So, I'm here to tell you all about it. I agreed to a plea bargain. I took a court-appointed program. I'm here to tell you about it. The program was put in place that if I completed it to the satisfaction of the court, then I would have no criminal record. No record of the arrests. She had multiple complaints against me to the police. And of course, everybody around me was saying, you got to be crazy to still want her. I'm the only one who said, I know better. I know her to the degree I know her. I'm going by what she said to me in the positive way. You understand me so well that she'll never forget that. The only reason she got angry in the email in 2010, before we met, you think you have me all figured out, is because she knew I did, and she didn't want me around anymore, and it was bothering her because she had these conflicted feelings of love and desire that she couldn't handle and deal with. She didn't want to face it, so she was reacting out of anger because she knew I was right. And I was bringing up all her past out of her and all the feelings she had for me, and it got her mad. It got her mad because she wasn't ready to face it, friends. She wasn't ready to face it. So that's what those emails and letters did. Now, the last contact I had with her was March of 2013. It was the last letter I ever sent her. There's been no communication from me to her ever since. The last time we spoke together was this day 15 years ago. And right now, what's 151. We're probably down on Shore Road right now. I think she came around 1:30. We got there around 1:45. So we met for 3.5 hours. So our conversation would have been just beginning at this time, 1:51 p.m. I can still see her. She wore beige shorts. She looked so beautiful, so pretty. And as I'm looking at her as my wife. I'm talking to her as if she was my wife in the future. I always talk to her about, I never told her, God showed me you're going to be my future wife, although I did tell her in emails later on, during 2012. I got to that point. I was speaking about what I believe God has shown me. I was very careful how I was phrasing it in those earlier years, but finally let all the guns, all my thoughts out. But as she was saying to me, Glenn, it's just not you, it's all guys. I want to be alone with Jesus. I knew why. I understood why. I told her that. I said, I know why, because you've been hurt by other guys. I said, you can't even be with me because of what they did to you. And I was hoping that that statement would maybe soften her a bit. And that time I put a pamphlet in the hallway that she saw as a violation of her space in 2008 after we met for 3 days. God had opened up the door for us to meet for those 3 days. As I prayed about her all throughout 2007, I said, Lord, is she the one? I started to email her. She'd email me back. She was hesitant against it. Until I prayed, I said, Lord, open up a door for us to meet. I want to meet and talk with her. I know what you placed in me. How did the Lord open up the door? I prayed New Year's Eve. And I said, Lord, I'm going to go out up the block to where she lives, 6 blocks away. I'm going to pass her door. I want you to bring her outside as I'm passing by, and I'll know it's you. That's how I'll know it's you. And that we're supposed to meet. Do you know that's exactly what happened? And she saw me. She had just gotten up out of a nap. We wished each other Happy New Year. And then in her sleepy fog, she points down the block. She says, take a walk with me. As we're starting to walk, I'm remembering this now. She had her dog's name was Night. Now I don't, a black dog. I never mentioned her name because nobody should know it. She's too private. We had never been together enough so that she wanted her name known. She's a very private person. In the future, when she's with me, it's going to be a different story, I believe. As we're walking down the block, she trips over. I think it was a closed door to sidewalk steel door to a basement, right, for a store, and she trips over the lock. So I said to her, I said, I know you're happy to see me, but you don't have to trip over me. And she started laughing. So that lightened the moment for us. That she did it again another time we met. She tripped. I think it was when we were walking down the block to go to Shore Road. Yeah, she tripped again. This is the day she tripped again. We're walking down the Shore Road, she trips again. I said, you're tripping again? I said, I know you're happy to see me. And I made her laugh a little bit, but friends, things that I remember. She trips. I said, oh, I'm happy. You're so happy to see me. You're tripping. Oh, you're so excited that we're together. The sense of humor that I had. I was trying to be lighthearted for her. Well, anyway, we met for that day, and then we met 3 days, two more days afterward. I don't remember all the instances how we met, but we met, and we were able to go down around Shore Road and speak. It was January. And you know what she said to me those 2 days? I'm sorry the way I was treating you. I've been cold and distant. I know you've written the emails. But my parents have a ball and chain on me, and I've been hurt by other guys. She says, you're such a good guy. You understand me so well. And then I knew she was interested. But then she says to me, when was the last time you were in a relationship? The only reason she's asking me that is because she was considering a relationship with me. She wanted to know if I was in a relationship now, if I ever had one. Did you ever were you ever married? No, I've never married. I never had a long-term relationship. She didn't know anything about me in that ring. So you know what I said to her when she said to me, when was the last time you were in a relationship? I said, the first time I met you. That's what I said to her. She smiled. And the last day, I walked her back home, and I can still see it. So beautiful. And I hugged and kissed her goodbye. I kissed her on the lips. I hugged her. And I walked away. I got 10 feet away. I turned back. She's still there looking at me. I had my head down. I'm saying, this is going to be my girlfriend, Lord. Thank you. You've opened up this door. I hugged her again and gave her a big kiss on the lips. And that was the last time that we would ever have that type of wonderful relating to each other, because a few days later, I saw her coming up my parents' block. I'm going up the block. She's coming down the block. And she looked like there was something bothering her. She looked like if something was wrong. I said, what's the matter, honey? She said, oh, I was drinking. I had too much to drink. I was with my sister, my sister's party, or her brother's party, or someone's party, and I had too much to drink. And I said, I went to give her a hug and a kiss. It was just too much. I said, wow. I knew she was hurting. So Mr. Fix-It, I thought I would give her some pamphlets about how when I used to drink and what I did to get over it. And when I was hurting, something like that. So I went to her apartment and I put it in her hallway. And I meant no harm by it. I thought she'd read them and be happy that I cared enough to reach out to her. I saw her a couple of days later. She looked at me. I said, what's the matter? She said, you put some pamphlets in my hallway? You came to my place? You violated my privacy? You violated my space? I said, uh-oh. I said, honey, I didn't mean anything by it. Did you read the pamphlets? I thought you were in trouble somehow. She said, no, but she said, and here I was willing to give you a chance, which meant that she wasn't going to give us an opportunity anymore. I said, honey, I didn't mean anything by it. I thought you were in trouble somehow. Cut me some slack. She never did. From that point on, she never cut me any more slack. It reminded her of something that maybe this other guy did to her in San Diego or somebody else. I don't know. I didn't mean any harm. I wasn't consciously aware of it. I didn't know her to that degree that she didn't want that done. She had never given us a chance, and so she sabotaged any chance of a relationship ever since then. What God had shown me in 2007 about her is that there were going to be many waters between us, many deep waters. I quoted something to her in an email I sent her in 2007. Many waters cannot quench love. If a man were to give all the wealth of his house for love, it would be utterly despised. In other words, real love, when it's from God, cannot be bought with money. But what God was showing me, and I was telling her, is that my love was going to be tested. With the many waters of difficulties I was going to have to go through in regards to her. I didn't know that when I was writing the email. I knew that, I would be willing to go through anything. I'm thinking that to myself in 2007. To me, a whole year was enough. Many waters already have heard not responding to my requests to me to go on a date somewhere. One time she emailed me back and she says, I'm seeing somebody now. It may or may not work out. I'm just going with the flow. Now, little did she know when she said that to me, I knew with the flow eventually was going to direct her life course to me. And I knew this in 2007, friends. 2007. Let me put this on pause a minute and get a drink, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So I started emailing her early in 2007. Was it February? I think it was February. January or February. So all of 2007, then 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 19 years. 19 years ago, I started emailing her. 19 years ago, actually 20, I started thinking about her more toward the Lord. I didn't start praying about her till 2007, but I started thinking about her more toward the Lord, about the vine and the branches and how the Lord can produce the fruit. Between us, I wanted her as my girlfriend in 2005. I just when I left Dolphin Fitness Club in 2006. I made a video I put it on YouTube. I never mentioned her name, but I just said I was making it in regards to her. 2006. So that would be 20 years. April of 2006, I made the first video. But I started praying about her in 2007. So it's 19, 20 years. 15 years since we last spoke. 23 years since we first met. Never once did we go on a date anywhere or have a cup of coffee. But she did let me kiss her twice and hug her, telling me what such a great guy I was. When was the last time you were in a relationship? You understand me so well. You understand why I have a ball and chain on me, because they're watching me, what the guys I'm going out with. It's because of what they did to her. They knew what it did to her, so they were protecting her. And she knew I understood that, and she appreciated that part, that side to me. So that's the side that I've been trusting all these years that she'll never forget. Even though she was in an angry email, did the opposite flip-flop, that I was bringing it up. You think you understand me, everything about me, everything about me, my former friends, family, relationships. I did. She knew I did, but it was getting her angry that I was bringing it up again. And then she wanted to meet with me just to have a sense of peace. So we met. I walked up the block 15 years ago today, right on time. She comes down the block. She's on the other side of the block where my parents' house used to be. She saw me. She stopped. I could see fear in her face. I had waved to her. Here I am. She stopped. She turned, and she's going up the block. She was changing her mind. So I said, oh, no. So I went up the block. I caught up to her. I said, honey, it's okay. It's okay. I said, what's the matter? I could see she was afraid. I don't want to do it. I'm afraid of it. I think she didn't say she was afraid. I said, it's okay. I said, I know you're afraid. I said, everything's okay. You don't have to be afraid. I'm here. We're going to have a nice, come on, we're going to have a nice conversation. So okay. So we went down the block. I think she tripped. And then we wound up going down to, 89th Street, down where there's a circle. And we sat on the park bench for 3.5 hours. We talked about us, the current us, the past us. I said, honey, I didn't mean anything by the pamphlet. I said, you stayed away from me for 2.5 years, and I've been thinking about you every day. And I said, what happened to all those good things you said to me? I said, I didn't want to let go of you until I found out why. I said, that's why I kept going after you. I said, I wasn't trying to harass you or bother you. I just want to know what happened. You told me I was a great guy. I know you had feelings for me. You said, I understood you so well. You asked me when was the last time I was in a relationship. I said, what happened to that girl? She couldn't quite give me an answer. And all she could say was, Glenn, it's just not you. It's all guys. She says, and she knew I had believed in Jesus because I had emailed her about it and wrote her letters concerning it. She says, I want to be alone with Jesus. What she's saying to me, I got to be alone and find out what's going on with my life. I know you believe, that you believe God showed you that I'm going to be in your life one day. She didn't say that, but she knew I believed it. And in my frustration, I said to her, you've got feelings for me. And she put her head down. She's shaking up and down. Yes. She says, yes, but I do, but I can't. She kept saying, I can't. I said, okay. I said, I tried my best. I did all my best that day to make up with her. I said, let me ask you this. I said, you're going to find out down the road where Jesus would have you. Now, it's been only 3 years since the Lord showed me that she's the one. But I'm looking at her as my future wife. She looked at me and she says, yes, that's true. So those were the two things she agreed with me that day. She had feelings for me and that she's going to find out where Jesus would have her down the road. I said, okay. Then she agreed with me on something else. I said, that being the case, would you be willing then, throughout the course of your life, is what I meant, while we're apart from each other, with no contact with each other, would you be willing then to ask Jesus if I'm the one he's chosen for you? Because I knew she needed healing. I knew only the Lord can heal her. I got to that point, I recognized it. I couldn't heal her. In fact, he had said to me some other time, Glenn, you can't heal me. Stop trying to heal me. Stop trying to play my psychiatrist. I said, honey, I'm not trying to be a psychiatrist. I'm friends with you. I'm trying to be a healing influence in your life. Yes, if you stay with me, I can heal you. That's what I thought, but I was wrong. Only God can heal a wounded woman. Would you be willing to ask Jesus if I'm the one he's chosen for you? I wanted to hear it. I needed encouragement, some sort of encouragement that day from her. She looked at me. No man ever asked her that question before. I'm absolutely sure. She looked down to her left. She looked down to her right. She's pondering what I'm asking her. And she was facing me. I'm sitting on the bench. Here's the bench, right? I'm sitting with my back to the bench. She's next to me here. But she's facing me with her back, not to the bench, but her back this way. Let me see. I have to go this way. This way, okay? Her back is this way. And she's facing, this is her face facing me. With her legs propped up so she could balance herself. And she's looking at me. She looks so pretty. And then she said to me, yes. Friends, I got my yes then. Yes, what she meant was, if you're the one that God has chosen for me, if you're going to leave me alone, I'll find out. And if the feelings I have for you are still there, I'm going to find that out from Jesus. If not, they're going to disappear. She was willing, and at least I got that yes. Now, I didn't know but she says, you got to promise me something. I didn't know, but I was not going to listen to her when she asked me to leave her alone. Because she said, you got to promise me, you leave me alone. Promise me you'll leave me alone. Promise me. I said, okay, I'll do my best. She said, no, you got to promise me. All right, okay. I wasn't sure of myself. I wanted to honor her request. I wanted to honor her. In fact, her name means honor. That's as far as I'm going to speak about her first name, but her name means honor. I wanted to honor her. And so I said, after she said that to me, and I said, okay, I'll leave you alone. I said, I don't want this to end between the two of us. I kept saying, she said, can you understand how I feel? And I said, yes, I can understand how you feel. I do. I do understand how you feel because of all you shared with me, all that I know about you and your past. But I said, I don't want this to end. I was letting her know how I felt. I said, well, if she's going to tell me how she feels, I'm going to tell her how I feel. I don't want it to end between the two of us. You can make such a great girlfriend for me and such a great wife. And I said, I'm going to wait for you as long as I have to. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to wait for you as long as I have to. You're willing to ask Jesus? I'm going to wait for you as long as I have to. She looked at me and she says, why would you do this to yourself? I said, because it's my soul and I think you're worth waiting for, and I love you. I love you enough to wait for you. And I kept my word. Here I am making this video 15 years later. 15 years ago at, 12:13, we were talking. I kept my word to her that I would wait as long as I have to. And I'm still waiting this very tick of the clock. 15 years later. Why? What? Why? Why? And after, I wasn't able, after a little while, 2 years, started writing love letters to her, and I wouldn't stop. And I kept writing them and writing them and writing them and writing them because I had all this bottled up, pent up love stuffed down that I didn't want to have stuffed down. Just like she had all the feelings and love she had for me stuffed down. But she wasn't able to express it to me, and she wasn't. But I wasn't willing to have it stuffed down. I got this idea because I used to think, what can I do? I was scheming, and not in a bad way. I was planning, not scheming. That's a bad word. Plotting, not plotting. Planning. What can I do to win her back? What can I do? I got this idea of a man on the internet wrote his wife a love letter a day. I said, what a great idea. And I know I'm poetic, expressive. I can express myself. This is how I can release all I feel. And this bottled up love and desire and what I think about her and express it to the best of my God-given abilities. I started writing. I'd already done it through emails. I was doing it through emails. in 2012. But I thought a written love letter is so much better than an email. Right? It's more personal. It's loving. You're writing, taking your time to script a letter without typing it. So I started writing 1 and 2 and 3, 2 letters, 4 letters, 3 pages, 5 pages, 8 pages. Sometimes it got to the point I would send 4 or 5 letters a day. One time I remember wrote 28 pages, front and back. A total of around 240 to 260 letters over time. I didn't want to bottle it. I wanted to have, I was showing her, I want to show you, this is the type of man I'm going to be. Communicated for you in a relationship. I says, communication is the key in any relationship. Communication is so important, and in what direction the relationship will grow. I'm setting the pace. Taking charge, as the man. I'm not going to leave you out there wondering, where I am or what I'm doing, or if I'm faithful or not with you. I said, I'm going to be faithful to you alone. I said, I don't want anybody, excuse me. I would tell her in those letters, just like I said to her in 2010, the last time we met. I don't want anybody else, and never will be anybody else. It'll only be you or nobody. I said, I'm going to wait for you as long as I have to. Now, she thought that I was going to listen to her to leave her alone, so she said, he's going to leave me alone. Why would you do this to yourself? She believed I was going to leave her alone. Why would you do this to yourself? She didn't know whether she was going to be back, but she did give me the indication that if Jesus worked in her, that I'm the one, then she'd be willing in the future. I kept saying to her, consider us for the future. Don't close the door on us permanently for the future. She says, no, I can't. She couldn't see it. But then that's when I brought Jesus into the picture. Would you be willing to ask him throughout the course of your life? I put him then in the mix where he should have been in the conversation, which he was. That's when she said yes. But in and of herself, she couldn't, when I was asking her, keep us open for the possibility for the future. She couldn't do it until I brought Jesus into the picture. Then it made it more easier for her to say either yes or no. She said yes. And you know why she said yes? The reason she said yes is because she had the feelings for me. If they weren't there, she would have said no. I think she would have said no anyway. You've got feelings for me. She admitted it. Would you be willing now to ask Jesus if I'm the one he has for you? Because I'm the visionary. I'm looking to the future. God gave me the vision for the future for her. There is hope for your future, says the Lord. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. I have plans to prosper you and not to harm you. I have plans to give you a future and a hope. And you call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I will be found by you, says the Lord. So that's just how I found out she's the one. But she couldn't see it for herself because God hadn't shown her yet. She wasn't ready and being prepared by God and healed enough by God to know it and see it for herself. But she knew she had the feelings for me. So God wanted her to get to know me to the degree God allowed her to get to know me in those earlier years, as God allowed me to get to know her to the degree I did. But then he closed the door on both of us because it had to be that way. So she could be healed, and so could I after all we've been through. And I could be prepared, and she could be prepared for the right time. Friends, I have to make these videos. It's the only way I know to encourage myself. The longer this goes on, the more I have to make these video messages, because I wake up each morning and then the depression starts to sink in. And Lord, when is she coming? When is she coming? Is she ever coming? Is she ever coming? Is she ever? Now, I know she's coming. I'm not saying, is she ever coming, because I'm doubting it. I'm not doubting it. But my soul is down. Why are you downcast, O my soul? King David said. And why is my spirit disquieted within me? I've had so many years of this with her. I had to keep it up. This is why she said, why would you do this to yourself? Because she knew that this is what was going to happen to me. She knew it. She's not a stupid woman. She's a very smart woman. Very smart girl. Just one of the things I love about her. Well, and I told her I'm willing to go through it. It's my soul. I choose to go through the pain and the suffering and the sadness and the sorrow and the depression and the agony until you're back, because you're worth it and because I love you. I have to make these messages. King David encouraged himself in his God by writing the Psalms. Why are you downcast, O my soul? Well, he was downcast because the promise is not yet fulfilled in his life. Why is my spirit disquieted within me? Keep hoping in God, for I will yet praise him. He's the help of my face, my countenance, my hope, my help, and my God. Now, he's writing the Psalms. He didn't have this computer to do it. He didn't have a smartphone, at least I can. He couldn't release emotionally like I can in words. He's doing it with a pen. I'm doing it with words and making videos, hoping they'll help you in your life. That no matter how bad life gets for you, you can still trust in the Lord. No matter how bad you feel in your soul, you can still learn to trust in the Lord. No matter how much sadness and sorrow you have in your life for promises to yet be unfulfilled, and it's taking so long, lingering long, like it says in Habakkuk 2:3, lo, the vision linger long. We still trust in the Lord. Wait for it. I've been willing to wait for her. And I'm always going to be willing to wait from here to as many more days or weeks, even months or years. I don't think it's going to be more years. I'm just saying, because I'm 68 years old. How many more years do we have, right? But he keeps me strong, and making these messages gets me in a strong place in my soul. Otherwise, they're going to be bottled up. I can't write love letters anymore for the reasons I stated. I can't write emails. So I do this. I release it this way, by speaking about how much I love her, what I see in her, how much I want to be with her. When hope deferred, it's gotten my heart and soul sick. I'm not going to have my soul sick day after day after day after day without making these videos that helps me to clean out my soul, and I feel better because of it when I make the messages. Because emotionally, I'm releasing all the vibrations and the energy of feeling bad in words. And it does help me. And the Lord showed me it was going to be this way. In 2011, I was writing, I said, the Lord showed me that I was going to have many years of sadness and sorrow without her. But the joy of having her back will wipe away all the years of suffering I've had in regards to her. Why would you do this to yourself? Because I love you. I know you're worth it. I know you've got those feelings for me. I remember what you told me. I remember also to this day, you were willing to ask Jesus if I was the one he has for you. I was willing to wait, knowing no matter how many years it would take for you to be healed, I was willing to wait. But to wait for you is all I can do. That's what I've got to face. That's Phil Collins' song, Against All Odds. Take a good look at me now. I used to say to her, take a good, long, hard look at who's in front of you, honey. Take a good, hard look, and I want you to compare me with all the guys you know. What I was saying to her, take a good look. Let your eyes be open to who I am, because I am the one chosen for you. You couldn't see it then, but keep looking. Keep looking. Take a good look at me now, because I'll still be standing here. Why would you do this to yourself? I will wait for you as long as I have to. Then Phil Collins agrees with me. Against all odds. I will still be standing here, and you coming back to me is against all odds in your mind. It was against all odds in her mind. It wasn't against all odds in mine. I knew that what God had shown me. That's just the chance I'm going to take. Take a good look at me now, Phil Collins ends the song. Take a good look at me now. And the music fades off. And our relationship faded off. In 2010. That was the last time we ever spoke together. I never forgot her face, her voice, her beautiful lips. I even said to her that day, I love your lips. She softened a bit. She says, you love my lips? Yeah, I love your lips. I love everything about you. Depression came in my life because I didn't have a chance to express the love and desire that's in me, that eventually one day I'm going to be able to express to her as often as I want. Where I've always wanted. And this time, she'll receive it. She'll want it. She'll be ready. But those years, she wasn't ready. She didn't want it anymore after a while. She wanted the letters to stop in the emails because she wasn't ready to give me what she knew I wanted from her. It wasn't in her. That had to be worked in by God as God was at work in her, both to do his will and his pleasure. And he who began the good work in her will complete it right up into the day of her coming back to me and right up into the day of Christ in both of our lives. I'm going to read from the song by Survivor. Remember Survivor from the 1980s called The Search Is Over? And these are the lyrics. How can I convince you what you see is real? Who am I to blame you for doubting what you feel? I was always reaching. You were just a girl I knew. And here it says, I took for granted the friend I had in you. Now, I didn't take for granted, not every line in this applies to me. I didn't take it for granted. But I was wondering, how can I convince her what I saw in her was real? And who was I to blame her for doubting how she felt because of all that she went through with other men? Come on, I don't want to cry here. And how that prevented her from being with me. I was always reaching out to her. I had my hand reaching out. Come on, honey, come on. It's me. I'm the one. Stay with me. I see it in you. I can see what can be. My father said to my mother, come, my dear, along with me. The best is yet to be. When he proposed to her. I was always reaching. I was living for a dream, loving for a moment, every moment that I reached out to her. Taking on the world, that was just my style. That's what I was doing. I grabbed the bull by the horns when it came to her, and she was the dream I was living for. Now I look into your eyes, I can see forever. The search is over. You were with me all the while. I looked at her. I could see forever. I could see because God had placed it within me. Can we last forever? Will we fall apart? We did fall apart. At times it's so confusing, the questions of the heart. It wasn't the questions of my heart. The questions of my heart were her heart first. I always put her first before me. The questions of her heart. It was confusing her. The feelings she had for me. The conflicting feelings she had for me. Conflicting with the fact that she had been hurt and wounded by other men. And she couldn't go with it. She wasn't ready. She wasn't in the season in her life. And confusing for me, I knew she was the one. I was wondering, Lord, why do I have to go through this with her? Why do I have to endure all this pain and suffering? You could have made it so easy for the both of us in those earlier years, but it wasn't time for the both of us. And then I take the next 4 lines as something she would say to me. You followed me through changes, and patiently you'd wait till I came to my senses through some miracle of fate. This is what I've been saying God's going to work in her. I have been following her through changes. I took all the shots that she gave me. I followed her through the changes in 2007 to 8. Then when she finally said to me, I'm sorry for the way I was treating you. You're such a great guy. When was the last time you were in a relationship? You understand me so well. I was willing. You followed me through changes and patiently you'd wait. I'm going to wait for you as long as I had to. Till she comes to her senses. What does that mean? God causes her to see it. Her senses, her conscious realization comes to realize it for herself. Through some miracle of fate, through the miracle of the Father, Son, and Spirit. I was living, then it reverts back to what I would say. I was living for a dream, loving for a moment, every moment I had with her. We would walk and talk in the street. I can still see her. Taking on the world. I took on the world for her. That was just my style. Now I look into your eyes. I can see forever. The search is over. You were with me all the while. That's what she's going to say. You were with me all the while. You were with me in your heart. I was in your heart. You stayed with me in your spirit. You didn't give up on me. I've been with her. She's been with me. I've been with her in her spirit, in her inner heart, even though she had all of these walls up of protection because of what other men did to her. I've been in her spirit all this time. Now it says here, now the miles stretch out behind me, loves that I have lost. Broken hearts lie victims of the game. That's what happened to her. The miles stretched out behind her, love she lost. Her heart was broken and she became a victim of the game. But here it says, then good luck. I'm going to say, then good blessing. It finally struck like lightning from the blue. This is her talking. This is her. Every highway is leading me back to you. Every highway is leading me back to you. This is why I said to her, would you be willing to ask Jesus in your life's highway if I'm the one he's chosen for you? I knew it. I knew it in my spirit and soul. I knew every highway in her life was going to lead me back to me. And this is she's going to realize. Every highway in her life is leading her back to me. And this is what I can say when she's finally back. Now at last I hold you. Now at last I hold you. let me get this right. Now at last I hold you. Now all is said and done. The search has come full circle. Our destinies are one. So if you ever love me, show me that you give a damn. You'll know for certain the man I really am. I was living for a dream, loving for a moment, taking on the world with you. That was just my style. Then I touched your hand. I can hear you whisper, the search is over. Love was right before my eyes. Boy, did God speak to me through this song. Now at last I hold you. That's what's coming for me, and her. Now all is said and done. The search has come full circle. I've been saying this. She's going to come full circle back to me. Our destinies are one from the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So if you'll ever love me, and she did, and she still does, I know she does, deep in her soul, it was stuffed down. Show me now you care. Show me now you really give a damn. And know for certain the man I really am that I said I'd be for you, waiting for you, when you're ready. This goes along with the song Barry Manilow wrote. I made it through the rain. Many waters cannot quench love, many difficulties. We dreamers have our ways of facing rainy days, and somehow we survive. I survived by the Father, Son, and Spirit give me the ability to wait for her all these years. We keep the feelings warm, protect them from the storm until our time arrives. Then one day the sun appears, and we come shining through those lonely years. I've had my ways. I've been able to face the rainy days without her, making videos like this, praying constantly, thinking about her, praying for her, trusting what God's Spirit showed me is going to bear fruit in season when she's back. And then one day the sun appears. He who is coming will come and not delay to fulfill his word to me about her. She who is coming will come. I call her my sunshine girl. Then one day my sunshine girl appears. And we will come shining through those lonely years apart from each other. I made it through the rain. I kept my world, my inner world for her protected. I made it through the rain. I kept my point of view. All these years I said I was never going to deviate from my point of view that God gave me for her. I made it through the rain and found myself respected by the others who got rained on too, and made it through. And then I see her in this. When friends are hard to find and life seems so unkind, sometimes you feel afraid. Just aim beyond the clouds and rise above the crowds and start your own parade, meeting with me. Forget them all. Rise above it, honey, and start your own parade with me. Because when I chased my fears away, that's when I knew I could finally say, now she's saying this. She chases her fears away. God's healed her sufficiently. She made it through the rain as well. I kept my world protected. I made it through the rain. I kept my point of view. I made it through the rain and found myself respected by the others who got rained on too. I made it through. In other words, she allowed the feelings for me now to come to the surface. I made it through the rain. I kept my world protected. I made it through the rain. I kept my point of view. I made it through the rain. I found myself respected by the others who got rained on too. I made it through. And made it through. I made it through. I'm going to make it through. I've been saying it all these years. Another song that God used to speak to me was Barry Manilow's song, Somewhere Down the Road. We had the right love, at the wrong time. Guess I always knew inside I wouldn't have you for a long time. Those dreams of yours are shining on distant shores. If they're calling you away, meaning away from me, because you couldn't be with me or anybody in those years, I have no right to make you stay. But coming full circle, but somewhere down the road, our roads are going to cross again, our roads of life. It doesn't really matter when, but somewhere down the road, I know that heart of yours will come to see that you belong with me. Sometimes goodbyes are not forever. It doesn't matter if you're gone. I still believe in us together. I understand more than you think I can. You had to go out on your own so you could find your way back home to me. But somewhere down the road, our roads are going to cross again, our roads of life. It doesn't really matter when, because it's going to be in God's time, who makes all things beautiful in his time. But somewhere down the road, I know that heart of yours will come to see that you belong with me. Letting go, and boy, it was the hardest lesson I ever had to learn, is just another way to say, I'll always love you so. I had to let go. The relationship had to die, but it didn't die within me. And I knew it was never going to die within her. We had the right love at the wrong time. Maybe we've only just begun. The God of new beginnings, the God of second chances, and the God of restoration. Maybe the best is yet to come. The best relationship we could possibly have is in our latter years, in this season that will come, that could never have been in those earlier years. Maybe the best is yet to come. But somewhere down the road, our roads are going to cross again. It doesn't really matter when. But somewhere down the road, I know that heart of yours will come to see that you belong with me. I kept the feelings warm. I kept myself for her. I kept her for myself in my heart. And I wasn't going to let go until I got the desires of my heart. Delight yourself in the Lord, and then he will give you the desires of your heart, the longings of your heart. The desires of my heart from her come from God, friends. I couldn't have outlasted these many years. 23 years since we first met. 19 years since 2007. Beginning of 2007 till now. Actually 2006 till now. April 2006. Then 2007 when I began to pray about her till now. I couldn't have outlasted all these years if it wasn't God working in me for his will and pleasure to be done. What did we read earlier? The unchanging nature of his purpose still stands. And he confirms it with an oath. God's promised me to her, and her to me. And I saw it long before she ever would see it for herself, that when she comes to her senses to realize it for herself, as God works in her, then she's going to come looking for me to reconcile in restoration, in a brand new beginning, a brand new season, fresh. Not like the old relationship that had to die. Not like the old relationship we had that had to die. But a brand new resurrected relationship starting over again. Starting over again. In the meantime, I've been learning throughout the years to be planted by rivers of living water, as it says in Psalms chapter 1. Every day I had to practice this every day and encourage myself every day in the Lord, as he encourages me too. When I can't encourage myself anymore, he takes over and encourages me. He lifts me up. He lifts my soul. He lifts my spirit with reminders of what he said, or something fresh and new that he's been helping me with lately. so that the new relationship can rise. Planted by rivers of living water, which is the conscious, living, experiential presence of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, in and through my spirit that works into my soul to keep healing my soul over time of the sadness and the sorrow and depression and everything else I've experienced away from her until she's back. And then it says, then we bear fruit in season, and then whatever we do will prosper. In season, our relationship is going to prosper and blossom and bloom the way I've always wanted it to be and always knew it could be with her, and her with me. This has been my cross that he gave me. The Lord gave me this cross. I have picked it up. I have despised the sorrow of it, the shame of what I did, and not listening to the Lord's working and being put in Rikers. I didn't always carry it perfectly, but I did carry it. And I was willing to carry it for the glory of God, for the sake of Jesus Christ, and then for her sake, and for her sake as well. And for the joy set before Jesus, he endured his cross. The power of the resurrection, his bodily resurrection, and our salvation. And for the joy set before me, which is her back in my life, I was willing to endure the cross God gave me. I could see the joy of her in my life. That's why I told her I was willing to wait for her as long as I had to. And then she said to me, as I said several times in this message and so many other messages I've made, why would you do this to yourself? Because there's joy on the other side with you back in my life. You are my joy now, and you're going to be my joy in the future. That's what I meant. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love keeps no record of wrongs. It doesn't take into account a wrong that was suffered. Love bears all things. Love believes all things. Love hopes all things. Love endures all things. It's the power of love, friends. That's what love, when it's in the heart and soul, will be willing to go through. It will bear everything. It will believe all things. It will hope all things. It will endure all things. It will hope all things, because love never fails when it's genuinely from God. And at the end of that Corinthian letter, chapter 13, it says, now abide and remain these three things: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. How has God worked this in me? The faith he gave me, the deposit and measure of faith to know the Lord, the deposit and measure of faith to know his word to me about her, faith that she is the one, and faith that she's coming back. Faith being the evidence of things I've hoped for, the convictions of things I have not seen yet and experienced that I will. I didn't make this up. This is not my creative imagination. Any more than I made up those 3 days with those 3 people. I didn't make it up. I didn't plan it. It happened as I'm speaking to them about her. What I believe God showed me. She shows up all 3 times. I didn't make that up. It's not a story and a fantasy. It's reality. This is the holiness of God working in my life, friends. This is a holy calling. Consider your calling. I've considered my calling with God and with her. This is a holy calling for her, friends. Faith, hope, the hope that never disappoints us, because the God of hope keeps on filling me with all joy and peace and believing for her. And love that he's put in my heart to wait the enduring long seasons I've waited. Because I knew she's worth it. And I was willing to wait as long as I had to, for the sake of the Lord and his glory. And God's going to get the glory in my life and will make me a living epistle and living letter to be known by all men who have known, or the people around me who have known about my situation. God will make me a living example of the testimony in my life, what I've been saying all these years, that he will bring to the point of birth what's been in my heart and spirit and soul all of these years, and bring to delivery as he delivers her back to me. And then the financial prosperity will be there too, as he promised me. So when I wake up each day and I feel the depression, again, that I sink down into, because it always seems to come back, I have to make these messages. And I'll make them as long as I have to until she's back. To keep on encouraging myself so I can get through each day in the joy of the Lord that becomes my strength. When I tap into the joy of the Lord and put him first, then the joy is there. I can delight myself in the Lord. He'll give me the desires of my heart. Working out at the gym in 2012, I was upset about her that she wasn't back yet. And I asked the Lord, what do I do about this? I'm upset. I'm discouraged. And his answer came, delight yourself in the Lord. Delight yourself in me. I'm going to give you the desires of your heart because they're my desires that I placed in her. And the feelings and the desires she's had for you, Glenn, I placed them there too. But she pushed them down because they weren't ready to be born. I planted them as seed in her. And I'm going to blow upon the seeds by my Holy Spirit without you even in the picture. I'm going to bring them to the surface as I heal her of her past. And those seeds are going to sprout for her desire for you, to come looking for you to reconcile. I'll give you the desires of your heart because this thing is from me. This thing is from me. I'm speaking out of a prophetic spirit again, friends, right now. It's the spirit of my Father speaking through me at this very moment. This has been hard on my mind, hard on my soul, hard on my emotions for all of these years. It started feeling that these emotions in 2007 when I began to email her and pray for her, pray about her. 2007. How many men would be willing to wait as many years as I have for one woman? That whole, all of these stormy days and seasons we had between each other, I have been able to prove out with the grace of God in me. The grace of God is with me for this. Many waters cannot quench love. The many waters we've had between us has not quenched the love I had for her. It didn't quench it when I was in Rikers. It didn't quench it when the angry emails came. It didn't quench it when we last met 15 years ago today. It didn't quench when I was in Rikers Island or 84 days in Rikers Island or 40 court appearances. Nothing. Nothing. I didn't take into account any wrong suffered. I was willing to bear all things and believe all things and hope all things, knowing that love would never fail and that God would make me a living epistle and a living example of this in regards to her. When she's back, everybody around me who's known me is going to see it. And my light will shine before men that they might see, and God will get the glory in heaven. Now what happens to me is that when I start making these messages, my mind starts to take over to the long duration. The lingering long. I know what lingering long means. Habakkuk 2:3. Not just long waiting, but lingering. It's like a slow turtle. A slow turtle. For 17, 18, 19 years in regards to her, waiting upon God for her. But I have a strengthened ability within me to tap into. I've been able to speak with strength to the degree I can because it's the strength of the Lord in me. He is my strength. I had to continuously learn to die daily to me. I had to learn to die to what I wanted with her in those earlier years, the hardest way, lesson possible. I didn't want to let go and die to the relationship so that a new one could arise. I wanted her then because she was there then. But the Lord wanted it to die the way it was because he also wanted her to feel the estrangement from me apart from me. And then as he heals her, she's going to remember the good things that she liked about me and loved about me, and she's going to miss it. That's what I've been saying. She's going to miss it. Like Lou Rawls, you're going to miss my loving? I knew that about her then. Way back when, before the estrangement ever took place between the two of us. And the estrangement she's going to feel as God heals her from her past is going to rise to her conscious surface, and she's not going to be able to handle it anymore without going with it and wanting it in her life, which she didn't want then and wasn't able to go with 15 years ago today. She is going to at some point. She's going to want it. That's the only reason she would ever come looking for me to reconcile. She never came to look for me except once in 2010. I went out looking for you. Of all days, I couldn't find you because she wanted to talk to me about all the emails and the letters. That was the only time she ever came looking for me. But this time, that was a precursor, friends, that eventually she's going to come looking for me again. But this time she wants to reconcile. Not just to me so that she could ask me to stop, to leave her alone. This time she's going to come looking for me because she wants to reconcile. And when she finds me, she's not going to let me go. Because she's only going to come for one reason. The love is still there in her for me. The love doesn't leave, friends, when it's from God and he gets us apart for a season and he has every intention to bring us back together. That the love doesn't fade. It hasn't faded in me, and I know it has not been faded in her. That's why she's going to come back, because the love will come to the surface. She's not going to push it down anymore, because she's not going to feel a need to push it down anymore, because she's been healed sufficient from her past. Then she's going to be able to let the love that was already there, that I told her was there 15 years ago, come out to me. I said to her, you know, you have feelings for me. 15 years ago, I said this to her. It's about 3:06. We were still talking. I think we spoke to around 3:30. And then she had enough. She was a little tired because I want to be by myself, she said. I said, oh, can I stay with you just a little bit more? She says, no, I want to be by myself. I said, okay. I put out my hand to touch her hand. She says, don't touch me. She was afraid of it. She didn't know what I was going to do. I said, it's okay. So I put my hand on her hand, and she let me. I just held it there. I just put my hand on her hand like this, and I held it there for 30 seconds. I wanted her to feel, everything's okay. I heard what you said. I told you you told me how you felt. I told you how I felt. And then I took it off. At least she let me do that. I got up. I left her. I'm walking away. I'm about 20 feet away. I turned back and I just looked at her. She had her head down. I said to myself, it's going to be a long time before I see her ever again and have a chance to talk with her. To this very tick of the clock, the 19th day of August, 2025, we haven't spoken since. But there's coming a time we will. And then I'll be able to plant seeds of conversation in her. And she'll want it to do with me. She'll talk to me again. And this time she'll allow me to speak with her again, because she's going to allow me back into life again. In Jesus Christ's mighty name. Lord, this has been the most difficult road in the cross you gave me. And I admit it, I've been saying it before you for so long, and I've been saying it before men. Those who know me, those who don't know me, those that are Christian, those that are not. Those who understand, those who don't. This has been the most difficult. These have been the most difficult years and the most difficult seasons of my life, particularly when the memories come back. When it was like when we were walking and talking, and all the good things she said to me, and how I knew she felt about me. I kept that feeling warm, Lord. I protected them from the storm of everything else that's happened between us until the time arrives in your time that she comes back looking for me. I don't know how much longer it's going to be, God. I have no clue. It would have been wonderful for her to come back today in the anniversary. But if she doesn't come today, I'll wait for her. If it's tomorrow, the next day, whenever it's going to be. I know it's going to happen. I just don't know when. I know the days draw near in the fulfillment of every vision. you've given me, and you will not delay your words any longer than absolutely necessary. That you fulfill all your promises to me, not only to me, but to her, but also to my brothers and sisters in Christ who are waiting for many years for promises to be fulfilled. Bless her, Lord, wherever she is. I thank you, you're healing her of her past, of every guy out of her life that's not been good for her. And I thank you, you've been bringing to the surface the love she has for me, that you placed there, that was developed during the time she got to know me in those earlier years. And I thank you, she's going to come back looking for me. I thank you ahead of time, out of her own free choice and own free will, just as you showed me in 2009, she's coming back. And you're the God that makes all things new, as you certainly will in both of our lives. And then for the financial prosperity, Lord, and all the dreams I had, and how my business just died because of it, that she was my why for doing my business, and that died too. But I know you're able to resurrect that too and give me financial prosperity, Lord, when she's back. Of course, you can bless me before she comes back by giving me the capacity and the fire again to do my business, which I lost because I lost her. If you put the fire in me before she comes back to do business, you're going to have to do it because it's not there. Because I lost my why to do the business, which was her. And you could give me enough money, for whatever money you choose to give me before she comes back, but certainly afterwards, because I know you showed me in 2012 as the God of restoration. When you restore her to me, then everything is going to be there. Everything will be there. My life will change, and so will her life. See how your life will change after regard stores everything that was lost. All the years that the locust ate, because you restore the years that were eaten. In my life and hers. And give to us, Lord, and you are going to give to us the joy of what we lost in those years that we couldn't have both had. Because she wasn't ready, and you seemed to think I wasn't ready, and you wanted to work the patient endurance in me for her. That'll last straight through to the fruit of having her back, straight through to the days of our blossoming and blooming relationship, to boyfriend and girlfriend, quickly becoming that, fiance, straight through into our marriage together, Lord. And I praise you and I thank you for it ahead of time. As you say, before these things come to pass, I tell you of them, I show you them, so that when they do come to pass, you may know that I am the Lord who declares the end from what's coming from the beginning of when I first show it to you. The end from the beginning and from ancient times, things that have not yet happened, things that are not yet done that will be done in my time, saying, my counsel will stand. I will do and perform all of my good pleasure. So bless her wherever she is, Lord, today, in every way. And I thank you she's thinking about me even this day. But more so, thinking about you, which is most important. It's the only way we can ever be together. It's the only way we ever met and got to know each other. It's the only way we got apart from each other, and it's the way we're going to be brought back together by your spirit, not by human might or power. We didn't meet by human might or power when we first met. Those 3 people I spoke to didn't come by human might or power that day, and she just happened to come by those 3 days when I was speaking to them about you. You brought her back by those 3 days. You're going to bring her again to come looking for me when she's ready. You're going to move upon her. You were moving upon her to look for me that day. She couldn't find me. So she emailed me and she wanted to meet. That was you moving upon her. But now you're going to move upon her to come looking for me, this time because she wants to, not to keep me away, but she wants me to be back with her. And this time she's not going to let me go. I will arise, says the beloved woman in Song of Songs, chapter 3. I will arise, I will look for the one I love. Scarcely I've passed the watchman. I found the one my soul loves. I found him. I held on to him, and I would not let him go. And that's what's going to happen, Lord. That's what you promised me. This time, when she returns, she's not going to let me go. And what you told me was, what you revealed to me through that, do not stir up or try to stir up her love for you until she's ready, because she wasn't going to be ready until the season in you was ready for her, in your timing for her, as you heal her from the past, and then the love will bloom, ready to be acted upon as she comes looking for me to reconcile. That's the reason she's going to come, to look for me. I praise you, I worship you, and I bless you, and I thank you, Lord, for all the years of waiting, that she would be worth it. And you, Lord, get all the honor and the glory because of it when she's back. You've led me this whole way in the great and terrible wilderness, great and vast, all these years without her, terrible without her, to teach me, to humble me, and that's what you've done, so that you can give me at the end of the test your promise for her, as you gave it to Joseph and as you gave it to King David. I praise you and I thank you ahead of time before it all comes to pass. In Jesus Christ's mighty name. Amen. And so be it. I pray this has helped you in your walk with Christ somehow. My name is Glenn. I live in the Bay Ridge section of Brooklyn, New York. Keep on praying for me as I keep on praying for you, because it absolutely works. As Jesus says, men, women, boys, girls are always to pray throughout the entire course of their lives. The Apostle Paul put it this way: pray without ceasing. I've been practicing it. I'm a living example of it. I've never given up, as Jesus said. I've been praying and never giving up for her, because we are going to get what we're going to get from the hand of God no faster than the timing of God will allow. And we're going to reap in due season if we don't give up. Look at me. Have I given up? Don't you give up either. I love you guys. God bless you, and I'll see you next time. Take care.